we are jumping right into communication skills training today, and specifically looking at how to answer any question with confidence and with clarity. Now, obviously, this is important because when you have an opportunity to sit down across the table with someone who has the keys to that great opportunity that you've been looking for, we want to show up powerfully. We want to demonstrate our leadership, and we want to be the authoritative presence on whatever topic may come up during the course of this conversation. And I know that for me, as a former Miss America state title holder, Miss USA state title holder, and someone who's done extensive media and communication skills training, that it doesn't come naturally necessarily to be able to quickly, concisely, and accurately be able to engage in a conversation where questions are coming at you and you're supposed to feel relaxed and respond enthusiastically, but you're not sure how to put together the thought organization and the content to really be able to respond in a way that you're like, oh, nailed that. So I'd like to share with you a few tips and techniques that I have learned over the years that have been most beneficial in helping me feel prepared and confident to be able to handle any conversation and any question that may come my way during that particular conversation. I can promise you, if you employ the skills that I am going to teach you today, it will change your approach to being able to react and respond to questions, whether they be interview questions or it just be a conversation that you're having and looking to make a great first impression. So let's jump in and I'm going to teach you the process. Okay, so first we want to look at preparation. So that's what's going on before we ever even get into this conversation. So we know that women who are most confident, most articulate are usually such because they're well read and they have done their homework outside of the actual conversation. So if there are topics or things that you know are going to come up as part of this conversation, we need to be preparing for those in advance, and not just preparing from a homework standpoint or a reading up standpoint, but also immersing ourselves in the topic so that we have the confidence to sort of be our own expert on this subject matter, and then taking the time to really work on getting those vocabulary words, that kind of language into our communication. So a well-read woman also has a great command of the English language and is able to utilize those words that help her be more concise in her communication skills. So if we can use good languaging and practice languaging what it is that we want to say by either journaling out how we might respond to certain topics, or actually interviewing ourselves and doing a video recording to our phone camera. That's another means by which we could practice languaging what it is that we want to say and how we want to say it, see what flows together really well so that it's not a hesitation when we want to share information, but it really just flows right off the tip of the tongue. So our preparation outside is what gets us ready to then step inside. And the mindset then that we want to carry as we step into this conversation is really having sort of a big picture look at what it is that we're walking into. So obviously, if this is an interview for a job or an opportunity, we have the big picture well in hand, and we're looking long term at what we have to offer, as well as what we can take away from the opportunity and how we can better help the entity or the organization be successful because of the skill set that we uniquely bring to the job for the season. All right, so once we have our preparation in hand, our mindset is in hand, and now we can really see ourselves in the role, then we also need to recognize that our posture as we step inside this interview room or as we sit down to have this conversation doesn't need to feel like one of interrogation, but instead we should be looking at this truly as a conversation. And so why would we do that? Well, first of all, if you are being interrogated, then you're not in charge and you're not in control. And if we're going to assert leadership and dominance as part of this conversation, then we need to be able to control the controllables for ourselves. And so if we can look at this as a conversation with another person and keep it conversational, it helps take the pressure not only off of ourselves, but also off of the other person. And so our posture should really be one of just sitting down to grab coffee together. It keeps things feeling more relaxed. It allows us to insert humor or some lightness into the conversation. And it doesn't have that same sort of heavy, spotlights on you under the microscope kind of a feeling that we would bring to a different conversation if we were calling it an interrogation, or just waiting, having a posture of waiting for that person to, pepper us with questions. Instead, we are looking for opportunities to share naturally about ourselves, about our points of view, about our values, and what makes us tick. And those are the things that really then help create synergy with the person that we're talking with. And so how do we then develop that synergy? Well, we can't develop synergy if we're not first actively listening. Everybody knows that great communicators, first and foremost, have excellent listening skills. So we have to discipline ourselves, right, when we're in an environment that could potentially have distractions, or maybe even our own internal talk is creating distraction. There might be things around the room, a nervous tick that we have that could be creating a distraction, but our listening skills have to be 100% turned on, and we have to discipline ourselves to really lean into the conversation and hear the words that are being said to us without sort of jumping ahead. Some of us kind of listen with one ear, and then this side of the brain has already started working to formulate an answer when maybe we haven't even heard the full content of the question, which then can result in our response being only partial. So maybe we only got the first part of the question, we might just miss it altogether, because maybe as they were sort of wandering their way through asking the question, when they get to the final, aspect, that actually puts the punctuation on the end, and they ask the question, it may be on a completely different side of the tracks than where we started from at the beginning. So we want to listen fully, and we want to listen all the way through. And that does require blocking out distraction and being very disciplined in having those listening skills turned on and absorbing everything that is coming our way from the person across from us. All right, so listening skills turned on, ready to go, mindset's in the right place, we've done our preparation. So then what comes next? Well, let's talk about the brain and how the brain works in these kinds of settings. And I'm going to talk, just for the ease of simplicity, we're going to talk about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind as being two different parts of the brain that serve us in this environment. Now, that's simplifying it and dumbing it down a whole lot if you're a psychology person or you've done any kind of brain study. But for the sake of our conversation here today, it just makes it a little bit simpler. And so I'll give you an example. In your conscious mind, that's where you store facts and information. And in our subconscious mind, that's a tool that really stores mental pictures as well as all of our emotions. And so sort of the values side of us hangs out in that subconscious mind. The conscious mind retains facts like your math equations, knowing that 2 + 2 = 4. And memorization also is something that the conscious mind can retain for us. So inside of a conversational setting, when we are being asked questions, the quickest way to be able to respond to a topic that comes up is utilizing not the memorization tool or piece, but instead utilizing our mental pictures and our feeling words, our emotional response. Okay? And so the reason for that is, let's just do this an example. If I ask you, what's your favorite food? Immediately you have a picture in your mind of what your favorite food is, and you could describe it for me so that I could see your mental picture of what your favorite food looks like. Not only that, but you could tell me how you feel about that favorite food, the texture of it, the flavor of it, the color and smell of it, how it makes you it makes your mouth water, and it gives you certain feelings, and it elicits memories. And so all of those things are attached to this particular food item in your subconscious mind. And when you share naturally with me through the subconscious about your mental picture and how it makes you feel and why you feel the way you do, then all of a sudden I'm having this food experience with you, as opposed to if you gave me a memorized or a rehearsed response, which would be like, my favorite food is blank, and you just sort of talk to me in a very cold and flat and uninteresting manner, that because you've rehearsed and pre-planned how to talk about your favorite food. I want to experience your favorite food with you when you can talk with me in a way that elicits mental pictures for me and also elicits emotion for me. And in that way, now we are really developing a connection, and I'm getting to see more of who you are in a very genuine and authentic way that's helps me sort of come out of my shell also, and wanting to ask more questions and learn more about you from that perspective. Now, we can do this with any topic. It doesn't have to be food. It could be any professional topic, any political topic, anything that it is that might come up during the course of your conversation or a high stakes interview. And so when we utilize the subconscious mind, what we do is we visualize. And so when a topic comes up, we visualize a mental picture, and then we react. How do we feel about it? And usually that's, expanding on those feeling words, like it makes me feel happy, it makes me feel sad, it makes me angry, it makes me unhappy. Those are all feeling words. And then our thought organization and the content for our response comes from why we feel the way we do. And obviously, when we are sharing with another person about our feelings, those can always be validated by the person sitting across from us. When we tell people what we think, that makes it a bit more challenging. Now we're getting into a situation where the other person may not think the same way as you, and they may disagree with your opinion. And so now we're set up to maybe have a disagreement. However, if you share how you feel about something, the person sitting across from you cannot argue with your feelings. You feel how you feel uniquely, and no one can take that from you. Those are your feelings. So we can always share our feelings, and the person across from the table from us would be then able to validate those feelings, even if they don't agree, even if they don't think the same way about that topic as you do. And so that then creates really a spirit of unity as we communicate with one another, as opposed to being divisive, which we would never want to do, of course. All right, so once we've got this subconscious mind activated and we are utilizing our mental pictures and our feeling words, we're developing synergy with the person across from us, then we want to go into organizing that thought organization and the content. And so the way that we do that without rambling is we only describe whatever came to mind for us first, that mental picture. And then we explain how the feelings that come up, or the feelings that are evoked from that mental picture. And then we wrap that up with why we feel the way we do. Now, I was just working with a gentleman the other day who was getting ready for a professional interview, looking to advance to a new level within the work that he does. And we were talking, and he had used some AI tools to sort of help with his preparation so that he felt like he had good foundation for topics that might come up during the course of this interview. And as we were talking, he was referencing back to some of this AI generated content that he had acquired to help him with his preparation. And if using AI is totally fine in interview preparation, especially if it helps you with your research. However, what had happened was, as he was reading through the material, he had started to memorize some of the things that had come from the AI preparation, and it was coming off as sounding really rehearsed, really dry, and it wasn't in his vernacular, so it wasn't his natural vocabulary, and the way that he was languaging this information just didn't sound like him. And that's because he had memorized it from the AI, right? So what we want to do is we always want to use our most authentic voice, and that's why we are going to rely on our mental pictures and our emotional responses for our content and our thought organization. Now, the AI may have provided some terms, some language, some ideas, looking at things from a different perspective. Those are absolutely helpful, and we want to absorb that kind of information. But when it comes to regurgitating that information and then sharing it with another person, obviously we want to do it in our most unique and authentic voice. The only way that we can do that is if we're using our own mental pictures, and we can language in some of those terms, but we want to do it within a context and a framework that sounds like us and then comes across with the same warmth and vitality that we would naturally bring to the conversation. All right, so there's your thought organization. Once you have described how you feel and why you feel the way you do about whatever mental picture came up for you as that question was asked, then we are done. We don't need to continue on. The conscious mind will sort of start to wander out here and look for other things maybe that we need to bring into our answer or our response, but cut him off. Don't let him go out there. When you have explained how you feel and why you feel the way you do, you're done, and discipline yourself to conclude at that point so that we don't continue to ramble on and on. All right. And finally, we want to have inside of this interview conversation, we want to have a relaxed presence about us, right? We want to feel confident enough in our preparation, in our mindset, and in this moment with what it is that we're sharing about ourselves and about our preparation for this opportunity. We want to be relaxed. And so I have a whole different video that I've already done for pageant women about this. I'll link that in the description of this video if you'd like to check that out. But I will also be working on another one of those for professional setting as well. And so the relaxed presence is something that we can only attain if we've gone through 5 steps together to really make sure that we are in the best place that we can be for being able to share of ourselves naturally. And if we have the relaxed presence, then we can really take the focus off of ourselves and put it on the other person or other people who are part of this interview process or this conversation, where we're really looking to make that very best first impression. So I wanted to share that process with you today, the visualization process, which I think is a great tool to be able to use to answer any question, because regardless of the topic that is posed to you, so long as you discipline yourself to listen fully to the question, you have a full grasp of what has been asked of you now, you've got a mental picture that came up as that person was asking you the question, you had an emotional response that rose with that mental picture, and now you know the words are literally ready to explode from your mouth as you share naturally and authentically about how you feel and why you feel the way you do about that particular topic or the point that they have posed to you in terms of question. So thanks for spending this time with me today. If you have other questions for me, put them in the comments and I will respond, or maybe even make another video helping you improve your communication skills so that you can feel confident in any situation, in any setting, that you are prepared and ready to be your most authentic and most genuine self and show up with the kind of strong communication skills that you want to have so that you can demonstrate your leadership, your authority, and your dominance in any setting.